guys, welcome back to Our Awaken. So today I wanted to have a conversation that I wasn't really sure if I wanted to bring this conversation onto YouTube, but it's like a part of my story, and I feel like since I'm in the process of developing this channel, this plays a really big role in just the process. I've never seen anyone speak about it from the perspective that I'm about to bring it up. I just want to share my story in case it resonates with anyone, and also in the end I will be giving some tips and things that I've learned, things that I am learning, and just ways that you could overcome this if, again, it resonates with you. So let's just get straight into it. So for today's topic, I will be talking about the fear of being seen and also the fear of success and how all of that ties in with dealing with jealousy. So here's my story. I realized about a year ago, as I was on my self-discovery, my healing journey, and I was just self-reflecting on the way that I conducted business, and I realized that I had a fear of being seen and that I really struggled with promoting myself and being my biggest cheerleader. And it's like once I came to this realization, it made me just reflect back on just the time in my life where this trauma could have been developed. So this fear doesn't stem from the insecurity of not feeling like what I have to offer is worth it, but it was more so the fear of people possibly perceiving me advertising myself as being arrogant, as thinking that I'm better than, or I'm showing off, when none of those were the case. That's what you have to do when you run a business. You have to advertise. And I would get frustrated with myself because I knew that I was playing a role in holding myself back when I wanted to see growth with my business. I'm going to explain the series of events that have led me to this point. So growing up, I was always a shy, curious, confidently creative, introverted girl. I didn't really need a lot of attention, to be honest. I had an older sister, but there was like a really big age gap. So I had to learn how to entertain myself. I was a little lonely, but it served me some benefits because it allowed me to make use of my time and to be creative and to keep myself occupied. So once I got to middle school, I met these two girls, and they were already best friends before I met them, but I joined the group, and I'm just gonna be mainly focusing on one of them in this story because I feel like she's played a really big role in just the trauma that I have when it comes to this conversation. I realized that she definitely played a really big role in my decline of self-esteem, my lack of self-perception. So this girl who was my best friend, it wasn't until I want to say like freshman year of college that it really clicked to me. This girl is not your friend. This girl is actually your hater. She showed me what I thought was love and hate at the same time, but the hate was very clear, but I would always brush it off like this is just how she is. But that's not an excuse. Like, the girl was toxic and she was a hater. Like, let's be for real. So my mom, she would keep me in box braids, very low maintenance hairstyle, and I would get my hair done once a month. So when I would come into school with my hair done, like typically a person would compliment you when they like something, right? This girl, she would always try to humble me and always criticize me. So she'll say things like, don't start acting up because you got your hair done, or oh, you acting funny now, and don't start feeling yourself. This was like so often. Oh my gosh, the sirens. So in my school, we had to wear uniform. It was just boring to me. Like, why do we all have to have on blue and white? And then we had to have on black shoes. It gave I was in jail. So I would always try to find a way to spice up the uniform a little bit. The dean would always be on me like, oh, you know, you need to take that off. I would take it off, but girl, I came in the next day or the next period, I had it right back on because it's like, hello, fashion statement. But I used to come into school and I would have this little cute black vest I would throw on top of my uniform just to spice it up a little bit. Or instead of wearing black shoes, I would put my Jordans on. It's like anytime I looked nice or anytime people would compliment me, this girl was always the first one to humble me. Like, she was always trying to humble me. And as a young girl, I didn't understand the concept of jealousy. I didn't understand mean girl behavior because that's not who I was at the core. That just wasn't me. If anything, I struggled with people pleasing growing up. I struggled with avoiding conflict. So I would always try to keep the peace. And at a young age, I was always sensitive to energy and I didn't really know how to deal with that. So anytime she would say things like, oh, you think you look cute, oh, don't start acting brand new. She even said it to me on my birthday one time. At first, I would be like, what are you talking about? And instead of me seeing it for what it was, because again, I didn't understand the concept of jealousy, I would just always look back at myself like, am I doing something wrong? What is this girl talking about? Did I start acting some type of way? Am I doing this? Am I doing that? And even then, I knew I wasn't doing anything. I just couldn't wrap my head around, why does this girl keep saying these things to me? And I know I'm not acting this way. So it just left me to basically gaslight myself and question myself and hyper focus on my behaviors. So I basically found myself dimming my light around her, because dimming myself down when in the moments of me knowing that I'm coming in with something new or people might potentially give me attention on something, it got to a point where I didn't even know how to accept compliments from people because I didn't want to seem too big-headed, if that makes sense. I started to not really want the spotlight on me because, again, me and her, we were always together. You know, when you're in middle school, the entire class stays together the entire day. You're just going to different classrooms. So this was in my developmental years. We were like two different types of people. I was the quiet girl, but people engaged with me. People didn't really engage with her. So it's like when I was with her and people would engage with me, after they walk away, she would be like, oh, they didn't see me talking to you. Or it's like it was always being flipped back onto me somehow. And I had to try to de-escalate the situation. I didn't really know how to respond because it's like, in a moment where I would be feeling good, she would find a way to make me feel bad. And I just didn't really understand it. And another thing that really bothered me also, which I did not have control over this, the guys that she tend to have a crush on, they ended up having a crush on me. And I just want to make this very clear. Growing up, I was giving tomboy. I was into sports. I was into activities and just trying things out. Boys honestly were the last thing on my mind. Mind you, I wouldn't really even engage with these guys. But she would then do this weird thing where she would try to push me onto them or tell me you should give them a chance. And it was always confusing to me because, for one, I'm not interested in them. And for two, you're my best friend. Why would I go deal with a guy that I know you have a crush on? If anything, I was always trying to be her wingman to these guys. It got to a point where when the guys would come around, I would interact in the least bit just to show her, prove to her I'm not interested, like, you know, and just to also show the guys, like, please leave me alone. And I also feel like that caused a lot of friction in our relationship because it's like that created more hate in her towards me for obvious reasons. So once we got to high school, I realized like the diversity of kids in the school. And you know, like in high school, that's your time of wanting to socialize with people and get to make your new friends. Being that I didn't really grow up around a lot of African kids, I really had the desire to make some African friends. I would just talk to her about these feelings that I had or just wanting to make more friends. She would always get upset. Her and the other friend will always get upset, like, oh, you don't need no other friends, or what are you trying to get more friends for? Like, you trying to replace us? And I would always try to reassure them that's not the point. That's not what I'm trying to do. I genuinely just want to make more friends. Again, especially African kids, because I wanted to connect with my tribe of people. And they always had a problem with it. When I tell you, like, the attitude that they would give, being that I was an avoidant person and I did not like conflict, I would just be like, you know what, it's fine, I'm just not gonna bother. So I never really took the time to engage with people as much as I could have. So basically, I just felt like in that friendship, I started to have low self-esteem. I would always question myself. I always felt like I was doing something wrong. Like, she always made me feel like the attention that I got was me doing something wrong. Mind you, attention that I did not ask for. And it's not like I'm in people's face like, hey, like I said, I was the quiet girl. But although I was the quiet girl, I was also the person, when I got comfortable with people, I became a chatterbox. And people genuinely gravitated towards me, and I feel like that's something that she didn't like because it wasn't the same for her. My next story is going to be how my geometry teacher in my freshman year of high school caused me to have a fear of being seen and a fear of success. So basically, growing up, me and math, we just went together real bad. Math was always my favorite subject. I love numbers, and I always found myself in advanced classes. So in my geometry class, I was maybe like 1 out of 3 freshmen in a 40-person class that was mainly filled with juniors, seniors, and, you know, like some sophomores. I'm not gonna lie, I was already a little intimidated because once I had to make that transition from like the 2nd floor middle school to go to the 3rd floor with the high schoolers, because, you know, growing up, we used to watch like the high school shows, and I always thought high schoolers were like bullies. So I was just a little nervous, like, I don't want to be bullied, you know? So now that I am on the 3rd floor and now that I am in a class with high schoolers, I'm feeling a little anxious, but not really too much. So in that geometry class, a lot of kids didn't do their homework, and a lot of them didn't really do too well on the quizzes and the exams. Y'all hear anything? It's my turtles. So basically, she would do this thing where she would say, if you did your homework or if you got above a 75 on the quiz or exam, stand up. Girl, it was about maybe like 5 or 7 of us that would always stand up. A lot of the class wouldn't stand up. And then she would do this thing where she would give us praise in front of them while trying to put them down or make them feel some type of way. So once I picked up on that, I started to feel really uncomfortable and anxious because why are you doing this? Like, why are you using me as a pawn to demean the other kids? And I didn't like that because it gave, you're being a bully. And I don't like mean behavior. I've never liked mean behavior. I am the person, I want the whole world to be in kumbaya. You know, everybody holding hands, maybe not holding hands, but I want everybody to just get along. I want for people to be kind to each other. And I just didn't like that she was doing that. And again, being that I'm young in a class full of upperclassmen, I was a little afraid, like, hey, miss, don't make these people hate me. I've been doing good so far. Please don't be the problem. Please don't be the reason why life turns for me. And it's not even like she would have us stand up for like 1 minute and then sit back down. She would have us standing up for 10, 15 minutes while she's going on giving this lecture. And I remember one time I tried to sit back down while she was doing this because I just didn't want to be associated with it. And when I tried to sit down, she was like, oh no, stand back up. They need to see y'all. And I was just like, miss, are you for real? So it got to a point where I started to associate having good grades in that class to potentially receiving negativity. And it made me not want to be seen. I just wanted to get my good grades in peace, and that's it. Like, I didn't need it to be broadcasted and then belittle other people at the same time. She would do this thing where if she put a problem up on the board and she wanted us to solve it, she would be like, oh, if nobody comes up to solve it, then you guys can't leave. And it got to a point where, because I was tired of constantly being the one to go up and solve the problem, I would sit back and try to blend in with the rest of the crowd and pretend like I didn't know the answer, just because I didn't want to get that attention, like, oh, she thinks she know everything. It's weird kid behavior also. So I don't even want to discredit me feeling that way, because kids can be vicious sometimes, let's be honest. But I found myself dimming myself down to blend in with the rest of the class so that I wasn't outshining people. And it's like, all right, y'all don't know the answer, I don't know the answer either then. And she would get upset sometimes. I remember there was a time I questioned, like, damn, should I not do as good as I would just to avoid being in that position again? And that's even crazy to think about, because sis, you need your good grades. But it's also like, I don't want to be on the end of whatever viciousness you're doing to these kids. Like, it's not right. All right, so my final story is in relation to business. So I started my business in 2019, and here's a little shameless plug. So I'm a lash tech, and I sell amazing quality lash supplies, and I also offer lash trainings. So if you're interested, check me out at Afro Winks on Instagram. So running a growing business has caused me a lot of pain throughout the years. I had to cut off friends that I thought were genuinely supportive of me the way that I was to them. I realized that people started to become threatened by my success the more that I was growing. People start to get into these secret competitions with you. People will pretend like they support you but don't show up in any way. And having my business has just shown me a lot about people, but it has caused me a lot of pain as well as good things. But right now I'm focusing on the pain that has caused me. So like I said, I had to cut off a lot of my friends because they were showing me behavior that friends wouldn't show you. And it was always people that I least expected it from, people who I thought would be supporting me, people who I thought would be happy for me, and also people who have more than me materially. You would think you have more than me, why do you feel threatened by me? But people are threatened by what they know you can become. And I've experienced that so much when it came to running business. It made me fear success because I was afraid that the more that I did well, the more that there was a potential chance that people's behaviors would start to shift towards me. And being that I run an online business, that means like I have to promote myself. I have to be active with advertising. And I struggled with that because I just didn't want people to feel like I thought I was better than, or feel like I was being arrogant, or like I was feeling myself, when that's not the case. And being that I was sensitive to energy, I can pick up on a person not being happy for you but pretending to be. And that's honestly one of the most heartbreaking things. I'm always happy for people. I'm always wanting people to succeed. So my fear of succeeding and my fear of being seen was triggered in the past 2 workspaces that I rented out. So the first place that I was at, the girl, when I first got there, she was extremely nice. She seemed like a sweet girl. She would always compliment the things that I was doing, and she was just overly flattering me. And I've learned that that's a red flag, because why are you so, I don't know, it gives like you're trying to force yourself onto me, or like you like everything that I'm doing so much that it kind of scares me. That can potentially lead to jealousy, because there's so much of what I have that you want or that you like. The room was fairly, I'm not gonna lie, it was purple walls and red tiles on the floor. That just wasn't my vibe. So I got peel and stick tiles to put on the floor. I painted my walls. I gave it a very nice, like, modern look. And I realized in my first month of being there, before I put a lock on my door, I could tell she was going in my room when I wasn't there. And she was just keeping up with my progress and what I was doing. And she would always give me like compliments. And at first it was just like, oh, thank you. Then it started to become, can you stay out my space? Like, why do you keep going into my space? And then her attitude started to shift because she saw how much I was getting my room together. She started to say, oh, she was gonna hire an interior designer, which I knew she was lying. Once she saw the things that I was doing, she wanted to start copying me. Everything that I said I wanted to do in that suite, that girl would then be like, oh yeah, I was thinking the same thing. And for me, it was just like, do you not have a mind or a personality of your own? It was very weird to me. It felt like I was in Single White Female the entire time I was at that suite. And I really don't know why. I only stayed there as long as I did because the rent wasn't really expensive compared to other suites. But she was just giving me obsessive vibe. And the more motion that she was seeing me have, I feel like she started to compare herself to the things that I was doing. And I would notice like a shift in her energy. She would always be asking me, oh, how did I do this? Or who did I go to for this? And when I would say that I'm the person that did it, because I told you guys, I'm really creative. And when I told you I'm the person behind it, you're now giving me this weird energy. So I was picking up on that. So it made me feel like I had to dim myself down in there just to kind of keep the peace. It would be this thing where people were buzzing the door to come in. A lot of the time it was for me and not really for her, because around that time, like, business was pretty slow for her. So I felt like she was taking that out on me, and she would try to punish me by blasting music in the suite, knowing that I do lashes, which is a quiet service. She wanted to create this vibe like we were in a club. We are in a professional setting. You're running a business. Like, I want to be taken serious. I attracted a more mature crowd and they attracted a more immature crowd. And she knew it bothered me because as much as I would tell her, can you turn the music down? Or I would get up and go turn the music down, she would turn it back up just to piss me off. And I remember one day when I came in, she was like, oh, if you think the music is too loud, you could just turn it down. And in my head, it's like, how many times do I have to tell you the music is too loud? At this point, you're just trying to get a reaction out of me, and I'm not gonna give you that. I feel like I lost out on a lot of new clients that met me at that location because it's like first impression is everything. Because of the environment that she was creating, despite the environment that I had in my room, she found a way to basically insert herself, which was through music. Because I was picking up on this weird energy with her, I would just keep things at a very minimum with her. It would just be a high and by. And also, me being introverted, I literally just wanted to go to work, do my job, and go home. Mind you, from when I got there to when I left, I've always just been quiet. So it's not like my vibe has changed. It's not like I started off being really interactive and then I started to then close off. And if she wanted to have conversation, I would engage with conversation, but I wasn't really the conversation starter because I picked up on her negative energy. And it's like, I'm not really about to do too much interacting with you because it just didn't feel like she was being a genuine person. I could see through her basically, and she didn't like that. I'm not there to socialize. I'm not there to be your friend. I'm not there for any of that. Two other nail girls came in, and when I first interacted with them, things were fine. It was a nice, cordial interaction. And then slowly after, I could tell she was talking crap about me. You know when you could tell people are talking bad about you when you're not there? That's what it was giving. It's like when I came in, the energy was just heavy and I never really understood it because I'm kind to all of y'all. I don't give nobody attitude. I'm not a person to try to make people feel uncomfortable because as an energetically sensitive person, if you're uncomfortable, I feel that, which then in return makes me uncomfortable. I try my hardest to keep the peace. Again, I don't like conflict. I was just starting to get more of that energy from them as well, to where I'm just like, yo, what the hell? It's giving you're hating. I water my own grass. I'm not worried about your grass. What you do with your grass is your business. I hope you do well with your grass. However, I'm focused on my grass. With all these experiences, it has always been hard for me to really wrap my head around why people show up in these ways, because one thing about me, I'm the supportive, motivating person in everyone's life, stranger or not. If you explain to me something that you're interested in doing, or like a goal of yours, a dream of yours, or just something that makes you happy, I'm always going to be happy for you, because what you have going on, it doesn't take away from me. I like when people are happy. I always see more for people, and I always try to expand upon a person's vision by even including some of my out of the box thinking, just in case it's something that might help you. And I realize that I'm such a helpful and motivating person with people, because it's always something that I've needed but never really got a lot of. But with these experiences, to be honest, I wouldn't change them, because it has helped me strengthen my faith and relationship with God, and it has allowed me to trust Him more. He is protecting me, He is showing up for me, and He is going to support me regardless of what anybody around me decides to do. And I feel like with these experiences, I've also learned that everything that I try to be and give to other people, I deserve to give that to myself. I deserve to support myself. I deserve to show love to myself. I deserve to be my biggest cheerleader. And I shouldn't feel bad about it. I deserve to show up confidently without fearing judgment and criticism from other people. And one thing that I really struggle with, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm still working on this, I've learned that with being a light, I'm going to attract both positive and negative. I feel like for so long, I've always been afraid to outshine people. I've always been afraid to be like this mirror to those who are uncomfortable or unhappy in their realities, but they're taking no action to change their reality, while I'm taking the steps, because I don't like to feel stuck. I like to improve myself, because I want to enjoy what life has to offer. And I was always afraid that the more that I succeeded, the more that people would start to feel threatened by me, which meant the potential of people's behavior starting to shift with me. So I just resulted in dimming myself down to avoid that. However, I'm not doing that anymore. I realized that I can't dim my light to make other people comfortable. If you're uncomfortable with what I have going on in my life, that's for you to reflect on, and that's for you to deal with. But it's not something that I should have to hold the burden of, because honestly, that would be me being inauthentic to myself. And I would also be really stuck in my head that I know I'm not fulfilling who and what God intends for me to be in this world. And I've learned that if someone can't handle my light, it's not my job to tolerate the passive aggressive behavior out of feeling bad for them or wanting to keep the peace. I realized that that feeling that they have within them is for them to navigate and for them to deal with and work through. That's not for me to deal with, because I literally have no control over that. Now, with all of this, there are things that I am currently learning. So I'm learning to focus more on the positivity that's present, and learning to appreciate it and really savor it in. I'm also learning to control the controllable, which is myself, because one thing that you really need to understand is that you cannot control anyone's behavior but your own. The only job that you have is to control how you show up. It's not to try to control how anyone else shows up. I'm also really learning the power of discernment. I now avoid people who are overly insecure and people who compare themselves to people a lot, because I don't want to get caught up in that. I truly value my peace, so I make sure to keep a healthy distance from people who are toxic. I'm also learning to surround myself around people who are supportive and not make any excuses for people who are not supportive, no matter how they try to perceive themselves to be. You know who supports you and you know who doesn't. Also, I'm learning that despite me not being at my end goal of where I want to be in life, I'm living a reality that my younger self will be proud of. It's not perfect, but I'm truly grateful for it. And these experiences have taught me to just be more grateful for myself. I'm grateful for a lot of the things that I learned. Although I wish I didn't have to deal with them, I'm also grateful for the experience and the wisdom that I've gained over the years. It has helped me build my discernment. I'm also really grateful for the love and support that I do receive. I'm grateful for the faith that I've gained, especially in my times of feeling alone and misunderstood. But most importantly, I can honestly say that I'm grateful for the negativity that was sent my way, because while it exposed the character and the true nature of how some people can be, it has also shown me who I was. It showed me how great of a person I am. It showed me how kind-hearted I was and how I was still able to extend that to those who hurt me. And honestly, it really showed me that if people are always threatened by you, then you must be doing something right. You gotta be doing something right. I decided that I'm going to continue to proudly show up for myself. I'm going to confidently stand in my power. And regardless of the ups and downs, I'm never going to stop. If I fall, like Cardi said, I'm gonna get up 10, okay? So I hope you do the same for yourself as well. Let's make 2024 a great year. I know we say that every year, but listen, the goal is to constantly grow, is to evolve. So I really hope that my story has helped somebody maybe process some of the things that you may have gone through. And also, if you're a person who tends to operate in this way on the opposite end of the story that I gave, I hope you're open to the idea of self-reflecting and understanding how sometimes our insecurities can affect people around us. So just be mindful of when you're feeling something, feel those feelings, but also learn how to deal with them and not project it onto other people, because it's really not a good thing to be on the end of a person projecting onto you. If you like this video and you found it helpful, please give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. Stay tuned for an upcoming video. I'm going to break down signs to look out for a jealous or a fake friend. I really hope this video was helpful for anyone.